Hello everybody, Tim Hughes here. I'm the author of Social Selling, Techniques to Influence Buyers and Changemakers. Also the co-founder of Digital Leadership Associates. Sitting with Ian Moyse. Here we're talking about digital disruption, the way that the world is changing, or is the world changing? What do you think, Ian?
I think it absolutely is. I mean, we talk about digital disruption coming, and I don't think disruption's even started yet. I think it's big, it's happening already, and there's plenty of examples. But I think what we're going to see is disruption accelerating, and in ways people can't even foresee today. I often talk about, I've been in the cloud world for 10 years, and that's continually disrupt. Every year is going to be a year of cloud, but it's continually disrupting the way we do things. And often people don't realise it's cloud technology doing it. They're just taking it as read in terms of, and if you think about Internet of Things, we're now seeing with people able to control Nest heating, remote heating at home, and talk. It's happening now, but people aren't calling it Internet of Things, or they're just saying, "Oh, this is really neat. Like, look what I can do with my phone." And it's the outcome people are buying into. So in consumer and business, there is no doubt we're going to see a lot of legacy technology firms disrupted. We're also going to see a lot of legacy firms. Blockbuster's the one everyone uses. Netflix and Love Film displaced Blockbuster Video. Great brand, didn't do anything wrong. They've gone. And that was a global brand that very, very quickly the market they were in was changed by a new delivery mechanism, by a new entrant, and the customer went with their feet, right?
So, today actually happens to be the 10-year anniversary of the introduction of the iPhone.
Yeah.
And I know that when that came out, it was actually deemed as being quite clunky, and I had a BlackBerry, and there's no way I was ever going to move.
Yeah, I went through the same process.
And I now have, I've been through a whole number of iPhones. But also, there's a whole bunch of companies that are around that weren't around 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Facebook, Shazam. LinkedIn kind of was around, but wasn't as big.
And we're going to see Uber, Airbnb,
right? There's all of these companies have basically come out. I've just bought an Amazon Echo, and I'm in a situation where my whole life is Alexa do this and Alexa do that. And that is something else which is causing disruption. But that we generally see that because it's business to consumer, and we don't generally say, how is that going to impact me from a business perspective? And I think that there, certainly with cloud and there's a whole bunch of things that are happening from a transformational perspective that's going to impact us in business or in enterprise business. Do you agree?
Absolutely, and I think we're already seeing that shift, right? We're seeing it in the technology space. A lot of major technology brands that have been around for years as the dominating players are cutting lots of people. And it's not because they've done anything wrong. It's not because anything's got anything against their brand. It's because of new entrants are able to be more agile, bring new technology to market quicker, faster, cheaper. And it's going to continue. I always talk around, the names we just mentioned, we've heard of. There are names right now out there who've got technologies that none of us have heard of, that in 3 or 4 years' time are going to be these big names. And they're going to disrupt, because right now they're just testing out, etc. So Uber's a good example, right? And I do this at events. I say, what's Uber? And everyone says a taxi company. They're not. They're a platform. If in the States they've launched Uber Eats and they've launched Uber Rush, which is parcel delivery. They're going global with those two. So what they're going to have, what they really are, is if you look at Uber, their logo doesn't say Uber anything. It's just Uber. It's an umbrella brand like Amazon Store was. Amazon Store was initially books, and then they expanded. Uber's the same. So you're going to have a company who can use someone else's vehicle to move something from A to B. They're going to disrupt other markets. And I don't think those other markets are quite prepared for that, how quick it's going to be. But they have a brand, they have a loyalty brand. They've got some challenges, but they're a $50+ billion valuation company. They've come from nowhere very quickly. They've got a platform that works.
So they're on the list now in the States of companies that are too big to fail.
Yeah.
So in 5 years?
Well, if you look at the time,
how long did it take for Lehman's? Took 200 years or something.
If you look at the Fortune 500, the average age back in the 60s was about 50 to 60 years. Now the average age of companies in the Fortune 500 is 12 years.
So what as an individual can I be doing? Because I don't run I run a company, but average person is watching this. What can they do on a day-to-day basis to make sure that they're not going to be impacted by this, or they're not going to lose?
Well, they're going to be impacted, right? I don't think that you can't control what goes on around you in the world.
So how do you try and control this, or try and control the uncontrollable?
So what I always explain to people when I present at events and often talk about changeonomics or disruptonomics, it's the biggest challenge to taking this on board is your receptiveness to change.
Right.
Right. It's not about it's inevitable. Technology is moving faster and faster. It's getting more innovative, cheaper, quicker, etc.
Yeah.
You're not going to stop it. So you can resist it. You can say, "Oh, I don't like it," like Uber, taxi drivers. And I've said to them, "You know what?
I keep using black cabs.
Yeah, but I get why people are against it, right?
Yeah.
I get some of the challenges, but there's lots of people who had good experiences. Same with Airbnb. There's always been bad stories.
Yeah.
But they go iron those out and get it right. When Amazon first launched, there was challenges. They weren't as slick as they are today, but people forget that now. But now they've got it nailed. We're going to see the same with other change makers, as you call them, as firms coming into the industries. But the biggest thing I see is people in business are resistant to it.
Okay,
and
so
it's natural, right? Because
change is painful. You need to be open to it.
I think you need to be. Think about millennials.
Yeah.
Millennials are used to change and change quickly. They adapt technology quickly. They go, "Oh, that's new. That's neat. I'll take it." Brand loyalty, in my view, is waning compared to what it used to be. Okay, you can get people are more receptive, certainly the youngsters, to something they've never heard of before.
Yes.
Because of what is the outcome it gives me? Oh, it's really whizzing.
Okay, that's
have you
important.
heard about this? It's great.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll have some of that. They don't care about what the brand is. What does it do for me? Oh, it's affordable. It's neat. Oh, and there's a lot of word of mouth and personal influence.
I grew up with Persil automatic washing powder and Colgate toothpaste.
Yeah.
But I don't use them anymore.
And I think we're going to see that in big brands. There's a lot of innovators who have been, like Uber. You could say, well, how's it grown so quickly? If people would have resisted it. But look at what it is.
So one of the things that I'm a great believer is that every day is a school day.
Yeah.
So you got to kind of learn something every day, and so I don't ever see myself as at the bleeding edge. I wasn't one of the first people to get an Amazon Echo.
Yeah.
I was probably the 10th person to get one.
Yeah.
But I'm not a laggard.
Yeah.
I wasn't the first person to get an iPhone, but I kind of got in round about.
I think what's changed,
the 4S or something. Is that?
Yeah, I think what's changed. You said the word there, laggard. Being a laggard historically, going back further, maybe 60s, 70s, 80s, didn't have much of an impact. Today, being a laggard can have a huge impact. Blockbuster again. Kodak. We can go through lots of big brand names that don't exist in the way they did.
My parents resisted using PCs, and they were in a position where I was having conversations with them, and they were just so way behind. A friend of mine was telling me that he bought his father an iPad for Christmas because the only way that he could get the weather was basically to watch the news at 6 o'clock at night. And they actually, and they were you and I, if we want the weather, well, I just go, Alexa, what's the weather like, and she'll tell me what the weather like.
Adoption today happens faster than we've ever seen in history.
Yeah.
Otherwise, these new innovative companies, you mentioned Facebook.
So it's about making sure that you try and embrace it, and as I say, not necessarily be at the leading edge, but maybe the 10th person to get a.
And you need to be willing to, a phrase that I think came from Churchill, you need to be willing to change again.
Right.
It's not about change, it's about change and change again.
Yes.
So change to something that works for you today, and same for businesses particularly, you need to get into a reasonably agile state where you can take advantage of what's there today for your business, and there's incredibly affordable things to do, but it isn't necessarily always easy as flicking a switch to get there. There's often motives with your people. I put that system in and I know how it works and I don't want to change it because it's not broken. Yeah, but if you want to innovate and support your customers, you need to be able to change. But be willing, it might be in 3 years, you need to change the system again. Don't get stuck in, oh, now we've got it, that's the next 20 years sorted. Customers are less loyal, think with their feet, they can be agile, you need to be the same.
I know when we generally see internet buying from supermarkets as actually being the norm, but I remember when it first came in, and getting that last mile sorted out was a big challenge for the supermarkets. But now everybody does it.
Yeah. Because they have to, right?
Because we expect it.
Yeah.
So what once is being seen as being leading edge or bleeding edge actually now becomes, and it's interesting also. I remember when it first came out, one of the places that first introduced it, so for Tesco, was near where I lived in Twickenham, and because of the uptake, actually Tesco made an announcement they were going to get rid of all their shops because they didn't need them anymore. They were just going to have warehouses. And here we are, 12 years later, and they actually invested more in shops because they've invested in micro shops.
Yeah, so I think it's a blending, right? And I've said this: cloud is not going to replace everything. IoT isn't, etc. It's a blending of. So it isn't in business. You have to throw the baby out with the bathwater and replace everything. And I always say to people is the advice I give to people is step back, whiteboard. You are building your business today. Forget
if you were a
historical.
startup, you mean?
Absolutely. Remove all obstacle, all objections. You know, panacea dream. What would you do and how would you build it today? And anyone in the room says, but we can't stop it. It's not about we're going to do it. It's about dream it. What would you do? And paint it out. Well, we'd use that technology. That one we'd use the same as we've got because that's legacy and there's not really anything out there that does it. That's fine. What would be your dream? Then look at that and say, okay, how do we move to? That's the ideal
and
state.
And that's your to be state.
Yeah, that would be the ideal state, right? If we were building it today, okay. How can we edge towards it? It isn't necessarily go from black to white, but how do we edge towards in the direction of that? Is it, well, that system would be the easiest to change. Well, let's start there then. Let's start on the journey because that's what we all agree would be a much better place to be because it would be more operationally efficient or it would enable us to do these things that customers are asking that we cannot do with the legacy system. Maybe customers want to deal with us over the web or through a mobile app. And the current system prohibits because da-da-da. And then figure out, okay, on a journey, how would we map out the journey to get there? And then start picking them off. And you may never get fully there, but you'll be better off, as opposed to just look at it as we don't really know what we've got works.
And being tactical and going, well, you're going to switch this system, or let's do this, switch this system off, and we'll do that.
Well, often it feels too hard, right? Because it's people haven't mapped that out.
Yeah.
So it just feels too big to take on. Why not have a brainstorming session in your business with your business leaders who understand your market and company? Maybe bring someone external in who understands some of these new technologies generically and just map it out. Now, if you then end up not doing anything, you're doing it based on a educated viewpoint. Right? It doesn't mean you have to do it, but at least you've thought it through, as opposed to, we're not doing it because it feels too hard and it's change and da-da. And I always cite back to Blockbuster. At some point in a room, they would have had a discussion around these new entrants doing it via the post. And at one point, they had the opportunity to buy Netflix.
They did.
Right? They didn't do it. You've got to think, well, they had that discussion. Where did they miss it? And that's a big company with a lot of smart people who built a global brand who went the total other way and they buried the thing. So why wouldn't you go through that process at least? Doesn't mean you have to change. You're not committing to anything. But you might learn something. If you changed one system which made you 5% operationally more efficient or grew you 1% more customers next year.
I have a friend who did some consultancy for the company which was in those days EMI, probably was 30 years ago. And in the presentation it was about how new business models. And they were asked to basically do some blue sky thinking at the end. And the blue sky thinking at the end was a sort of a bit of a tongue-in-cheek thing, and they actually said, and we think, because if you think about EMI, it was all about records, it was all about, and they said, we think one day people may buy music down the telephone line. And they all laughed. And
there's plenty of examples of that, right, where people have missed it.
And there are plenty of examples where, and that's kind of, we probably, it's a discussion for another day about innovation and how organisations need to grasp innovation and how they actually do the blue sky thinking. But that's
the biggest thing holding companies back from this is change receptiveness in the people.
Yeah.
It's not, technology is now affordable to the average to small business.
Yeah.
It's available. Most things that you could dream of doing are available. You look at drone technology, Internet of Things, cloud, mobility. All of this stuff is affordable, consumable. And your employees are doing whizzy things at home that you're not doing in your business. And you're not thinking about how you serve your customer better, whether it be customer service or selling them better or whatever the nature of your business. So the prohibitor used to be, but we couldn't do it because it's going to cost us $1 gazillion and we're not one of the huge corporations. That's all gone. Whatever you want to do is probably available very cost effectively today. So what's stopping you? And it's people's receptiveness to change or doing it differently.
Brian Solis has a great thing where he says, we were going to do digital transformation, but I got caught up in meetings. Ian, that's been fantastic.
Cool. Thanks,
really
Tim.
enjoyed it. Hope to see you soon.
Thank you.